Hello, welcome to Speech Talk Live. This is episode number 7. And my name is Jay Oza. I am based out of Hazlet, New Jersey, here in the United States, which is roughly about 45 miles away from New York City. And the purpose of Speech Talk Live is there are 4 things we try to accomplish in this. One is this is an opportunity for people who are interested in improving their public speaking skills to come on the show, to discuss a particular topic, to review a peer's speech that the peer has worked hard on and wants to get some real live feedback on how to make it better. And the third part of this show is to review a famous speech, to see what that speaker did well and what we can take away from that to improve our public speaking. So in a sense, this is a place you come to learn, and we're all trying to improve, to teach, since many of us have been on several times and have taken courses. There's something that we can all teach other people. Third is to share. So if you have a speech that you want to get feedback, this is the place to send it so we can take a look at it and give you feedback. And lastly is to support. Public speaking is scary for many people. You're vulnerable. You're out there pretty much naked giving a speech, and you need a support group to kind of get your fear out of giving a speech. So that's the purpose of this Speech Talk Live. And so far it has gone really well. This is our 7th segment, and we've covered a lot of different topics, reviewed some excellent professional speakers, and also done a lot of evaluation on peer speeches. So if you're watching this, watching isn't going to help much. You need to get on and participate. So I strongly urge you to give me a call, contact me, send me an email, and start participating. That's the only way you're going to improve. So today's agenda is the first topic that I've selected in segment 1 is the metric part of it. This is something a lot of us do not give a lot of thought to. When we say give a speech, we just start going right into it and start giving a speech. But the metric part is like, at the end of the speech, what is your overall objective? What are you trying to accomplish to say that, yeah, you succeeded in your speech? So we're going to have a discussion around that. And there are no right answers here. We just want to kind of talk about it. What I do, what Latesh and other people that are participating do. So let's have a discussion around that. And maybe if you have any ideas, you can share with us. The second segment, we're going to review a speech that I have done. I did that a few months ago. And I will discuss it, and then we'll have a discussion around it, get some feedback on what I can do to make it better. So this is where I want the feedback from others, and I explain it to them what I have done, what choices I made, and how I can make it better. So that's the segment number 2. Third segment, I have picked a famous speech that was given. This one was a speech that was given by a college basketball coach in the United States named Jim Valvano. And he got an award, Espy Award. It's an Arthur Ashe Award for courage, I believe. I don't know the exact, but I think that's what it is. People who exemplify courage in the athletic arena. And this speech, I think, is remarkable because part of what we say in Speech Talk Live is that public speaking or any kind of speaking is a work in progress. And this is a speech that he gives almost 2 months before he dies. He had contracted cancer that is spreading throughout his body. And some of the things he does is just remarkable on what public speaking is all about, that when you put somebody on a stage, it transforms him. And that's what I wanted to discuss and get feedback from others. So that's the agenda for today. And at this point, I'd like Latesh to introduce himself, and then we'll get started with our segment number 1. Okay, Latesh, take it away.
Thanks, Jay. Hi, everyone. I'm Latesh Balakrishnan. I'm based out from Kochi in India, and I've been participating in this forum for the last couple of 7 episodes. And I find this as a great place to improve my skills on public speaking, and also to improve my personality with respect to interpersonal skills and talking to a global audience, to a global team based out from different geographies. It's a great experience, and I really take a lot of inputs from whatever discussions that we have here. So a lot of thought processes goes in for at making this particular episode. So the background work that goes in, the kind of discussions that we have are very healthy, and it gives a positive impact to even not only from my personal aspects, even from the professional front. It helps me to grow as a person. Yeah, thanks, Jay. That's from me.
All right, Latesh, thank you very much. We'll take a brief pause so I can introduce the first segment. Hello, welcome back. This is Jay Oza, Speech Talk Live, episode number 7, and we're going to move to segment number 1. And in this segment, we're going to have a discussion around a topic that a lot of people don't really think about, and I thought it'd be a good idea to have this discussion. And it's kind of loosely covered, but not given a lot of time. So I wanted to spend some time on having this discussion. And the topic is, when you're working on a speech, what metric are you looking for at the end of the speech to say that, yes, this is the metric that I am going to use to determine whether I succeeded with my speech? So I wanted to kind of discuss that, because I think it's very important. We always talk about that you got to know your audience, which is important. But that's part of the equation. The rest of it is, okay, now you know your audience, but what do you want your audience to do? So I wanted to discuss that. Before I discuss that, Latesh, do you have any quick thoughts on it before I give my ideas, or do you want me to just give my ideas and then you want to chime in after that?
I will chime in after that. You can start off.
Okay, good. Because sometimes, in case I'm getting too long, just unmute your mic.
Sure.
Mine. Okay. Yeah. So that way I know that I mute your phone. So that way, I see it. Okay. So that way I know that I'm going on too long. So let me just give you overall my thought. And I've been thinking about this particular topic, and I've come down to 3 things. That when you give a speech, and I'm assuming this is a speech that you have been asked to give. Somebody like Latesh has been asked to give a speech on stage gates, and he spent a lot of time preparing for it, thinking about it. But the part you also have to think about it, okay, what happens after the speech is delivered? What do I expect? What do I want the audience to do? Now, if you don't think about it, there are really 3 things that the 3 outcomes that really result from outcomes that you get from a speech. One is, if you don't really give a lot of thought to it, the outcome is that you made a lot of noise. And either you made good noise, beautiful noise, but at the end it's noise. People didn't remember anything, and nothing is going to happen. And it's just that you took up time. You took up your time, could be days, weeks preparing for that speech. You took the audience's time. They spent an hour listening to you, but at the end, nothing got accomplished. There was no real there. And in a sense, you made noise. And sometimes, let's face it, we all like to make noise. We don't like silence. And that's sometimes what happens with many of the speeches. Okay, so I would classify that most of the speeches are nothing but that. Okay. The second outcome of a speech is entertainment. Now, a lot of the professional speakers that you see, that's what they are really doing. They're entertaining, mainly. There may be some content there, but I would say, like, when you see a professional speaker like Tony Robbins or anybody out there who make their money basically giving speeches, their number one objective is to entertain. If they're not entertaining, they're not going to be invited. So they are essentially performers. They are mainly a performing, and at some point there may be some content, but that content is not the main. They're not leading with the content. They're leading really with the entertainment portion of the speech. They're trying to entertain the audience to capture their attention. And in the process, they may include content, but that's not what I see when I see these speeches where people are professionals. So whenever I see a professional speaker, number one, I want to be entertained. Okay. Then comes the third outcome. This is the one that is the most difficult. And this is where you're trying to effect a change. If there is no change in how your audience views this particular topic that you are giving a speech on, then you have to ask yourself, did you really achieve anything? Now, this is difficult. As you know, that change is hard. You're not going to change all the audience. That's just not possible. Even if you change handful of people, then you achieve your objective, because that's what your objective was. Your objective was not to make noise, not to entertain, but to, at the end, change few minds in the audience. And let me give you an example that I think kind of illustrates that this point clearly. And it comes from a movie. And the movie that I'm thinking about here is this movie called Jerry Maguire. I don't know if you've seen it. The movie's been around now for a while, maybe 10, 20 years. And it stars Tom Cruise and Renee Zellweger, right? And it's a movie where Jerry Maguire, played by Tom Cruise, he has like an epiphany that there has to be a mission for the work he's doing. He's a sports agent, and he's not happy with the way people are doing business. So one day he spends the whole night writing a mission statement on how business should be done. Well, evidently, this did not play well with his executives. They were not ready to change that. So he gets fired, okay? As he's leaving, he gives this farewell speech about, like how business should be done. It's his last time he's going to get a chance to speak to it. And he's very dramatic, and people are all watching him. They think he's going to completely lose control and freak out. And at the end, he's asking people that he's worked with, like, that who's going to join him. He's going to start another company that's going to do it the right way. And he keeps asking them, who's with me? Who's with me? And nobody wants to join him. And he's getting embarrassed now. Like, here's the people that he's worked for so long. Now that he's going on his own, nobody wants to join him. And finally, he says, okay, I got to leave with something. So he takes this goldfish. So the goldfish had no choice. So he's about to leave. And then he's finally asking, is anybody ready? He's now individually asking people that are in the office, who's ready to join him. And finally, this woman, Dorothy Boyd, said, Jerry, I'll join you. And Jerry's now so happy that finally somebody decided to really is aligned with his objective, his way of doing business. And Dorothy Boyd also agrees with that. That's how the business should be done. And she's ready to leave this company and join Jerry. Now, what the point I'm making is that, in a sense, Jerry's getting fired. But when I look at that speech and I said, he achieved his objective. He's trying to get somebody to join him. And out of all the people there, only one person was willing to say, Jerry, I believe in what you're doing and I'm ready to join you. And I find that whole scene exactly what it's like that when you're giving a speech, that how many people after you give a speech are going to change something, change in a sense that are they going to spread the message that you gave? Are they going to come to you and say, I really like I want to know more, and I'm ready to at least open to a change. So that's the metric that I like to think about, that if you're giving a speech, what is the metric you're going to focus on to say that I succeeded? If it's just the matter of just giving a speech, then that may not be good enough. If it's a matter of entertaining, then that's fine. If you entertain, then you achieve your metric, that I entertain most of the audience and I'm going to get invited again. Or are you giving a speech to effect some kind of a change? So at this point, I'll let Latesh give his input on what he thinks. Like, what kind of metric are you going for when you're giving that stage gate? What kind of, is it just to give a speech because you're forced to, or because you have to give a speech? Are you going to use it to entertain people, or are you effecting some kind of a change within your organization?
Thanks, Jay. It was absolutely great ideas that you brought in. I really like the concept of leading with entertainment. I think that's very strong statement, and that's how actually a particular public speaking should be having all the ingredients to bring in humor and connect with the audience. So that was a really a great, the liners which you said about Jerry Maguire and the way he was able to influence at least one person from the team to join him. That was really a real good example. Coming to the topic about metrics, which I feel is important for any public talk, is well, it's not like one specific metric. There's like a couple of matrices which I consider is important for any discussion. One definitely is like the first instance when you are going onto the platform or going onto the stage or going in front of the audience and then making an impact. So the way you bring in your body language, the way you dress up, so all that makes an impact, the first impact, because I think the visual impact plays a very important role. What you see is what actually lasts for a longer period than what you talk. So from that angle, that's one very important criteria. So the first few minutes which you spend with the audience, just bringing up the topic, connecting with them, and setting the context, etc. That plays a very important role. Second is that the way you are able to use illustrations, some kind of a story, some kind of images. So a graphical, a pictorial representation always lasts longer. I think that maps to the brain much longer than any kind of talk that we have. So that's second thing. Third is like the percentage of time that we spend on introducing the concept that we are going to talk on. So that's important because most of the time we spend considerable amount of time to explain all the nitty-gritties and the tools, techniques, etc. involved in a particular topic. But then we forget to tie it back to the main agenda. So that's important. Third is like I think the speech should end on time, so the duration should be very much as per what we had scheduled. People do not really want to spend too much of time outside of the time that they had actually meant or used or being used for that particular talk. So that's one thing, ending on time. Then another important aspect would be how much we are able to cover the room with respect to our range of vision. So that's like we should have at least we should be seeing at each and every individual who is present in the room, and should be making eye contact with them. So eye contact is very important. That is critical. When you make eye contact with a person, that means you are acknowledging his presence, and you are acknowledging that the kind of the reason that the very reason that he is there in the room is because you wanted him to listen to your talk. So that connect should be happening. And from the audience perspective, the attention span for any topic, any new concept that is introduced will not last more than 5 minutes. So it's important that we discuss our concepts and then immediately change the topic after 5 minutes or not more than 3 to 4 minutes. So yeah, I think that's my take on the matrices on for any public talk. Jay, over to you.
Right. No,
Thank you.
those are all excellent points. One of the questions that I'd like you to answer is at the end of it, those are all the things that you're going to do as far as body language, time, making eye contact, and obviously all of this is for some objective. You want to connect with the audience, but the message that you have, how do you make sure that the audience, first of all, gets the message? I think that's the part you're controlling. Then the second part is, I guess, it's the call to action. And how do you make the audience do something, right? Because you want them to take some kind of an action. Do you think about that at all when you're giving a speech? Like at the end of it, do I do it in the beginning? Do I do it throughout the speech, or do I do it at the end? Like, what's the least you want them to do? Just to say, I want you to think about this topic that I just gave? Do I want you to go to this website perhaps and learn more about it? Uh, because otherwise, the speech essentially is, it's in a vacuum, right? He just gave the speech, and now people are back to doing what they were doing before. So the question that I'm asking is, do you even think about that? That this is the main objective. This is what I want the audience to do. Not this is what, obviously you have to focus on what you're going to do. But the other part is the part that you don't have much control over. That is, what do you want the audience to do after they listen to you? Do you give a lot of, like, have you given a lot of thought to that? And how do you make sure that that happens? Like, for example, the presentation that you have to give on stage gates, like, what do you want the audience to do regarding that particular topic after you give it? Is it just, you just want to give them the information and just for educational, or is it something that you want them to do afterwards, saying that I want you to adopt this methodology within the company, or at least start thinking about it and using it, something like that? So I'll let you answer that.
Sure. Thanks, Jay. That is a good question, especially when we are giving a talk on a subject which is related to a technical area or anything that is going to be an informative speech. The most important part here is like to ensure that what we are discussing about and the main idea of bringing that particular topic is to ensure that we are giving this knowledge to the audience. So to gauge whether this information has gone in, whether they were able to connect with the thought process, and looking at the various examples and the cases, etc., which has given. So are they able to connect? And if they are able to connect, how would they be applying these concepts in their day-to-day work activities? So the most important part here is to get responses from the audience themselves, ask them questions. Maybe not really pinpointing in a single person the audience, but ask them an open question like, if this is the scenario and this is how the particular situation is, what would you do? So there would be many thoughts which would come up from some members in the team. So you'll get to know like whether the concept was driven in properly. The others who probably did not hear me, no, they were probably not very attentive. They will also get an idea like what was the topic about and how can they connect, and probably they will come up with some more questions. Oh, sorry, I didn't get this particular concept, so can you explain it again? I didn't get the example which you were trying to give. So we try to poke some questions, poke it in the right areas, sensitive spots or the soft spots, which will trigger them to ask more questions. So that connect, the speaker has to have a good command or the topic that he is giving. If he is not having a command, he should acknowledge that he is probably very new to this particular concept, but he would like the audience to share in with their value additions. So it's like a win-win situation. We are trying to get the audience to also pull in with their thought process, and we are also giving the information that is there be present in us. In that way, it ensures that there's a healthy discussion, talk is appreciated and acknowledged by the team. That's how I take it, Jay.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good. Yeah, so I think what I'm hearing is that there has to be that interactivity between the speaker and the audience in order to affect some kind of a change. Because if they're not involved, engaged, then they may have already lost the attention. So I think what you're saying is, and those are techniques, by the way, right? That's part of developing a speech, and that's part of like, it's just not enough to take a topic and just convey it. Otherwise, you might as well just give them a white paper, right? I mean, as a speaker, your job is to take that and simplify it, and otherwise, why speak, right? If a white paper can do the job, then why are you even speaking? So I think I hear what you're saying. All right, so let's close this session out. And I think this was a good discussion. And it's one of those things that I have to think about, you have to think about, everybody has to think about. Because when you look at it, when you give a speech, there's a lot of time that you're spending. If you ever count the number of hours or days that sometimes you have to spend, you'll find out that it is a very, very costly endeavor when you're giving a formal speech to an audience. And it's one of those things, when you add up the time it takes to get to that point, the number of hours are going to be quite a bit. And the cost, when you measure it, especially in business, the cost can go up quite a bit. So it is important that if you're going to spend that type of number of time, energy, time, and money, that you better get the return on the investment. And also, you're using up the time of the audience, so they better get something out of it. So you have to think about that. Any closing thoughts, Litesh? Did I lose you, or any
With
closing
respect
thoughts?
to understanding the audience, uh,
You're breaking up a little bit. You want to try again? All right, we seem to be having some audio difficulties on Latesh's end. So,
we can measure is what we can control.
okay. All right, Latesh, I think we're going to close out
Okay.
this session because we lost some of the things you were saying. You want to repeat it again quickly?
Yeah, what I was saying, Jay, is like, see, for any discussion, any talk, or rather in life, for any activities, if we are able to measure it, we will be able to control it. So metrics is very critical, even in a personal life or professional life. So if we are able to identify those key matrices, which makes an impact, that will help us to improve. Thanks.
Okay. Okay,
That's
great.
a
Yes.
perspective.
So this is basically a discussion we just want to start it. We may come back to this again at some point in time when somebody's ready to give a speech where metric is going to be very important. And one of the speech we had used a while back was Latesh's speech on stage gates. Like, what was the metric that he was trying to achieve, he was looking for? And this is a topic we could come back to it again when we're doing a review of a peer speech. Okay, so at this point, we'll move on to the next segment, and I'll take a quick break and come back. Hello, this is Jay Oza, host of Speech Talk Live, episode number 7, and we're moving to segment number 2. And in segment number 2, we evaluate a peer's speech. And today it's one of my speeches that I have recorded a few months ago. And the speech is, I guess it's an informative speech, and it's about decision making in business. How do you make a business decision? And decision making is very important, as we all know. And what makes it challenging today is that companies live and die by decisions. You don't have a lot of time, so you have to make a good decision. And in this particular speech, what I did was I took some of the ideas that I learned from a Coursera course on model thinking, and it kind of opened my eyes that here we're swamped with data. Data is everywhere. Today, without data, we cannot function. You want to mute your line, Latish? Because I'm hearing some noise. Okay, right. So there is lots of data that we produce. For example, even in this show that we're doing, we're producing data. There's a lot of data that's being produced. Every word that I'm saying is going somehow can be captured and can be used for something. We don't know what, but this is information that Google has access to on YouTube or whether you use Google search. They're capturing all that data. And what the reason that's happening is because storage is cheap and data is, like somebody called it, the oil of our generation. It's monetizable. So when it comes to businesses, how does a business make a decision? So in this speech, what I did was, the way I organized it was, I looked at it and said, okay, it's not that simple, right? When you have to make a decision, because what is the right decision? There could be, every decision you make, there could be opposite. There's a, whatever you make, there are always an opposite way of making that decision too. So I start out talking about, proverbs, where you have a proverb that are opposites, the opposite proverbs. And then I look at a specific example, and I here use Six Sigma, which most people in business use, and that's to improve a process so that you reduce the errors that occur. And these are things that are predictable. For example, uh, like surgery, let's say heart surgery. A heart surgery, you're not going to be doing a lot of innovation. You want to make sure that when somebody has a heart attack or any kind of heart related disease, that you're going to make sure that that person, whatever surgery you're doing, is the outcome is really good and the person is back on his feet. So you want to make sure that whatever you're doing from the time he comes in, the entire process to any kind of surgery that has to be done, that's done in a way that will keep that patient alive and has a good outcome, right? So that's where Six Sigma can get used. Things like something that's quite predictable, like airlines, a plane landing and taking off, telephony, power, etc. Things that have to be on where you cannot have errors, okay? And then there is the opposite side of that, has to do with where things are constantly changing. What model would work there? So anyway, I kind of skipped that. Anyway, I don't want to give the speech again. So that was what my speech was about. And overall, I think if I'm doing a self-evaluation, what I'd like to feedback on is these are difficult topics to explain without any slides. Six Sigma can be explained. I think I'd like to find out whether I was effective in that or not, whether it made any sense for somebody who didn't know much about Six Sigma. Did it make sense? Because it is a kind of a jargon, like Six Sigma. It scares people, like, what the hell is Six Sigma? But you don't want to get into the standard deviation and all that. Then it gets too technical and you'll lose a lot of people who don't really need to know that. And then there is the other side, Fisher's theorem, where there's a lot of, that comes from ecology, where there's a lot of changes taking place, and how do you adapt to a changing environment. So my goal was to explain it without getting into the math. And then I take this Amazon to see how you have to use both of them sometimes. One part of the business where you need Six Sigma, and the other part where the things are constantly changing. So part of the speech is that I can't at this point do more with it. So I would like feedback. And the feedback is, does this speech make sense for somebody? First of all, who is the right audience for the speech? So that's one thing, because I don't know. When you record this speech, you're kind of recording it for general audience. And then you have to find out what audience is this really targeted towards. So then you can make it, you can tweak it based on that particular audience. But my objective in this speech was to keep it general, so that take a concept and explain it to people who are willing to stretch a little bit and trying to understand it. And then, is there anything in this speech that I could have done better as far as explaining a particular topic? And then just other things like delivery. Was the delivery capture somebody's attention from beginning till the end? To the end, what was the final takeaway that you got from the speech? So that's an overall my discussion on the speech, and what I think I did well, what I think I need to improve. The main thing is, when you take a complex topic and you turn it into a speech, the main thing is this understandable to somebody who may not be that deeply technical, and did they get anything out of it? So at this point, Latesh, I'd like to turn it over to you to kind of get your overall impression on the speech. What did you think of it, and what are some of the things you think I could have done to make it better?
Sure. Thanks, Jay. Well, this topic was quite interesting. How decisions are made, especially business decisions are made, and how we can use different models for making decisions. So from that angle, this particular talk which you gave was very it was making an impact on me, and any audience, anybody who is going to watch it will definitely remember the way we had to approach a specific problem by using models. And you have brought in two specific models. One is for doing the Six Sigma specific the work which was already in good shape, which is already, like you said, predictable. So for those we have a Six Sigma model, how to make it, how to improve it further, refine the process further. And the second is using the Fisher fundamental theorem. So that's another, like, wherein the process might be slightly chaotic. It may not be the process may not be like very well set, but how we would be able to make decisions in that particular scenario. So you didn't get into the nitty-gritties, or make us understand like what are the what kind of activities goes into making this particular model, what how we use this particular model. So you didn't get into that aspect. So it was a touch and go, but I think still it gave an impact of what this topic was about. So since we had a very limited time for bringing out this concept, so I think that was done. It was impactful in that area. And the examples, because this was definitely an informative talk, so we cannot have any talk without bringing in some kind of live example. So the Amazon Web Services for the Fisher fundamental theorem, which was like I think that gave a relative understanding of how cloud computing, and that too which Amazon had made as a market leader in that particular period. So that was quite interesting to know. Otherwise, from the talk angle, from the content angle, I think it was hard hitting. It was good. From the soft skills aspects, I would say that initially, I think the enthusiasm was slightly on the lower side. But as and when the discussion started coming up, and when you started getting deeper into the talk, the pace started getting picked up. And I think at that point of time, that was the time wherein I think even I was able to really appreciate the discussion, the talk that you were giving. So it picked up at a later stage. Probably if the introduction could be a bit more enthusiastically done, probably some more fun, some more vigor, some more energy, that would have made it a bit more interesting in the initial instance itself. But otherwise, well made talk, a well made discussion, and a good topic to talk about. On a scale of 1 to 10, I would definitely put it as 8. Yeah, that's from me, Jay. Thanks.
Oh, okay. Thanks a lot. Yeah, a lot of these speeches that when you give, you have to make choices, right? There are a lot of choices, and that's what the purpose of evaluation is. That did this choice work, or in the future you can make better choices in how to convey a particular message, because at the end of the day, you have to remember, a speech has to get completed. Otherwise, you could be spending a lifetime working on one speech. And also, you're not a particular speech is not going to be liked by all the audience. Some people are going to get it. Some people are not going to get it. You don't control that. What you control is what is the main message that you want to convey, and you want to convey in the most effective way based on the choices that you're making. And like in this case, I use the two models, Six Sigma. But there are traps here. This was a pretty delicate speech, because if you are not careful, you could easily go off the rails on this speech, because each of these topics, like let's say, if I really wanted to impress the hell out of people on Six Sigma, I could have taken that path, but I could lose a lot of audience by going that route. And then I could show, like, look how much I know about the Fisher fundamental theorem, and I could go more into that and then lose. So there could have been unevenness. I was saying that this speech it was difficult. It took me quite a bit of time to get this right, uh, because it starts out with a very simple proverb that anybody can understand. Then I take it a little bit deeper into the Six Sigma and the fundamental Fisher's fundamental theorem. But you have to be careful there, because if you get too deeply into each of the topic, then the speech kind of is uneven, and that's one of the risks that you always are you have to, it's a trap that you have to avoid. Like, is your speech even or uneven? And then at the end, I use the Amazon example. So from an organization point, that's how I made my decision. Those are my choices. uh, some people, now again, that's my decision, right? That's something I have to live with. Some people are not going to like it. Some people that are very when you need to give a technical talk, this is something you'll run into. There are several technical people in the audience who immediately will tune out if they don't see a formula that you put up on a screen or talk about, because that's what they know. That's what they want you to put up, because then they feels like, oh, I got what I wanted, right? But that's not, you're not giving your speech for that one particular person. You're giving your speech for the entire audience, and if they like it, then they will come and talk to you and get more information. So you have to be very, and the main thing is that whatever you know, you have to take that out of the equation completely, because the tendency is that, oh, since I know this topic so well, let me impress the people with how much I know. And that's when a lot of problems start with speeches, that you are not conveying a message, you're basically showing people how smart you are. And that's not the purpose of a speech. The purpose of a speech is to make your audience smarter. And any thoughts on that, Litesh?
No, absolutely. I agree with that. That is the main purpose of any discussion or talk, to ensure that the audience level comes up with their discussion and we are able to give a constructive and positive impact on them. So I think that serves the purpose. Your talk made an impact, and it does have all the ingredients needed for a good speech. It was well introduced. The contents were like properly laid out, and it ended out with a couple of examples and the way forward. So it was a good way. It was a concise and precise way of actually putting across a very complex topic in an easier way, in a simple way. Thanks.
Yeah, one thing that you mentioned, and I don't know how to fix this, and this is something that, and you may not know it either, so that's okay. As far as the enthusiasm part of it that you pointed out, that in the beginning you do want to be enthusiastic, but the thing is that, like, what do you suggest? Like, how do you become enthusiastic in the beginning in a way so that the people, I mean, do you expect a speech to have that level of enthusiasm that is consistent, or it has to kind of vary depending on where you are in the speech? Because you don't want to come across like this was not an entertaining speech. So I guess it's a different thing. When entertaining, you want to be enthusiastic right from the beginning, and the audience is completely attentive. Because here you're like giving a little bit of content, and then you're presenting the content in a way that makes the audience, I mean, that's a trick we all face. This is a challenge that we're all going to deal with, right? Because the main purpose you're speaking is to present some content in an interesting way. Can you be too enthusiastic to the point that the message is now being subordinated to the theatrics or the enthusiasm that you're projecting? And I mean, these are kind of choices that we all have to make. But sometimes what happens is that sometimes people do err on the other side, where they get too enthusiastic, but then you wonder, like, what was the content all about here? Like, okay, I got it, he was really enthusiastic. Or do you think that in a speech, enthusiasm should kind of trump the content? I just want to get your thought on that.
Sure. Yes. So, Jay, the concept, like as you said, leading by entertainment. I wouldn't suggest like too much of entertainment, too much of jokes around, etc. But if you're able to bring in some kind of humor in the initial instance itself, maybe some kind of a small instance. I cannot really relate currently with some kind of instance which would trigger some humor in the topic, something connected to the this particular business decisions may gone wrong in some area. So something like that probably, which would connect immediately with the audience, and they would be able to, okay. So it not only actually enthuses the audience, but it also enthuses yourself to really appreciate what you are going to talk about. So you'll be really happy to that happiness of that that particular topic that you are going to talk. So so that connect, that is the enthusiasm. I mean, it's not about being very loud and being very energetic. It's about that connect that will happen with the audience or with the topic, with for you as well as for the audience.
Okay, that's a good point. That's a good point.
Thank you.
All right, so we'll close out this session. Excellent points there on how I can work on some of the aspects of the speech, some of the things that I did well, and some of the things I should look into next time when I'm giving a speech. And the enthusiasm part is certainly, I'll take that into consideration as far as what are some of the ways to. And I guess what you're pointing out is that the main thing is to keep the audience attentive, because they can lose that very quickly. So I get what you're saying there. Okay, any closing thoughts on it before we move on to our next segment?
This talk was really good, and I think we should set this as one of the benchmark talks which you have given the last 4-5 episodes. I think this is one of the best talks done.
For informative, I think so. Yeah. For informative, it's very well organized.
For informative.
Right. All right. Litesh, thanks a lot, and I'll take a quick pause and we'll start the next segment, okay? Hello, this is Jay Oza, host of Speech Talk Live. We're in our episode number 7, and we're moving to segment number 3. And in segment 3, we look at a famous speech that has been given recently or in the past that we think we can use to learn something from. And the speech that I picked is kind of interesting. It comes from the sports world. And this was a speech that wasn't that given recently. It was given actually in 1993. And it was a speech given by a famous college basketball coach here in the United States. His name is Jim Valvano. And Jim Valvano was a coach of North Carolina State University's basketball team. And he won a championship, I believe, in 1983, the national championship, college basketball championship, in an amazing game that was decided in the last second. And he was a very young man at that time. Unfortunately, that was in 1983. Then later on in the early 90s, he contracted cancer. And he contracted it, spread quickly, and he did not live long. And this was one of the this speech that we're going to review was an award that he had received from ESPN. ESPN is a major sports network here in the United States. They're the largest. And they have this award show every year. And one of the awards they give out is the Courage Award, named after Arthur Ashe. If you don't know who Arthur Ashe was a famous tennis player, an American tennis player who contracted AIDS from blood transfusion and died. And he showed tremendous courage when he knew he was not going to live long. And to honor him, they named this award after him. In fact, when you see a U.S. Open, the stadium that they have, the main stadium, is also named after Arthur Ashe. Whenever you watch the U.S. Open tennis tournament, the finals, where the big stars play, they usually play in the Arthur Ashe Stadium. So that's a little background. The reason that I included this speech, because first of all, it comes from sports. And a lot of the sports speeches tend to be rah-rah, highly motivating. And they kind of they have the same formula, like, we're going to win, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And after a while, yeah, that's fine. Okay, that's good. You expect that. But this speech was kind of unique because one of the things that I think on this show we try to say is that that public speaking is a work in progress, and you're always giving a speech pretty much till the day you die. And what was so interesting about this speech is that he's receiving an award, and I think they're expecting him to say a certain few words and then just leave. But he doesn't do that. He has a message that he wants to convey to the people. And this is almost like a person who has lived a life and now he wants to kind of one last time. This is the last time he's going to get an opportunity to talk to the audience and to the people that are watching it on TV and even beyond that. And he says it right from the beginning that there are three things that you should all think about in a day. One is to laugh, the second is to think, and the third is to cry. And if you did that, then you lived a good day. And I thought that was a very important message that he gives. But there was another thing that he does in the speech that really captured my attention, and it comes somewhere in the midway. And if you notice the speech, you can see that he's in a lot of pain, and he needs kind of assistance to get up on the stage. And then at the end, you see him that he has to be carried to his seat where he's sitting in the front, right? But when he's on the stage, you never get the feeling that this man is dying. He's energized. He's like he has a purpose. And he goes on and he's got the stage, and how that transformation takes place from somebody who is dying to somebody on the stage is performing to the point where he's saying like, this is what I do. Just because I am suffering, I don't want to convey that I'm still living, and as long as you're living, you got to make the most of it. And the part that was really moving was when he tells that story about when he was a coach, when he first became a coach, and he gives this famous example of a legendary coach named Vince Lombardi, like how he barged into the locker room and said, and you're going to play for family, for your religion, and for the Green Bay Packers. And he's been practicing. And instead of the Green Bay Packers, he was supposed to say Rutgers University. That's the college that I went to, university I went to. And because he's so excited, he repeats the exact speech that Lombardi gave. And he just was, and I thought that was like so funny. Like this guy, even though he could be sad about it, he's not even thinking. He wants to really show his personality. Like, this is who I am. Don't think of what's happening to me, but this is how I want you to remember me. And I thought that was very interesting, that when we give a speech, no matter what kind of speech you're giving, whether you're dying, whether you are sad, you are at the end performing. And to me, that's what the essence of a speech is, that when you are there, think of your audience. Your audience doesn't want you to be, your job is to uplift your audience. And that's what he's doing there. He has a message, but he wants the audience to be uplifted, saying, hey, look, I may not have that many days left, but that's not how I want you to remember me. I want you to remember me for the way I'm living, the way, I think he even says that, where you've been, where you are, and where you're going to go, something like that. He covers a lot in this speech, and it's the message, the way he's delivering it, the way he sees his role, like he's in this front, his opportunity that he's getting here to give his thoughts on life. And I thought it was very moving, and it's considered one. And plus, he had a call to action, which is that there wasn't that much money that people are raising at that time. This was in 1993. A lot of the money was raised at that time. The awareness was for AIDS, of course, for good reason, but there wasn't that much focus for cancer, and a lot of people were dying of cancer. So he had a specific call to action at the end. And since then, there is a fund that's established called the Jimmy V Fund that raises a lot of money for cancer research. So he had a definite purpose for being there, and there was a call to action. So he accomplished a lot in that speech. And then he died actually 2 months after that speech. So I thought it was a very effective speech, and it showed a lot. Like, there was that performance element, there was a message element, there was the delivery element. There were so many components that you saw in that short 10-15 minute speech, 10-12 minute speech, that I thought we could all learn from, no matter where we are in our life, whether it's a good day, bad day, or whether we've just found out we have, few months to live. I thought that was a very important message that I got out of this speech. Latesh, I'll let you give your comments on this.
Sure, Jay, thanks. That was really nice. I think the way you have put across the speech, the way Jim has given it is like it was quite moving. You said it right. It was quite a moving one. And even though he was going through such personal situations, it was a very I wouldn't call it tragic, but definitely it was not a pleasant experience that he was going through. So from that angle, the context was he was at the Arthur Ashe award ceremony, and he was there and receiving an award. In that point of time, the way he started off on a humorous note. So for me personally, I was not aware of Jim earlier. So I just when I actually went through this particular talk. Then I realized, from beginning to end, I was hooked on to what he was talking. The bits and pieces of humor that he spread it across throughout the talk was it grabbed the attention for the audience. It was like very moving. The some few statements which he said really made a very powerful impact. Those were really powerful statements. One was like never give up, don't ever give up. That's like very strong, and it just drives home a very important message, which we can really apply in any part of our day-to-day work life or personal life or wherever you are. Never ever give up. If you feel that there is something that you want to achieve, you want to give it a go, just do it. So that's one thing that Jim, even in this in that particular state of mind, he was able to drive that point across. The other part was the three things that he said, which is important. That is, you should look at and understand like where you were previously, where you are currently, and where you want to be. And for that, he mentions that there are three things, as Jay you also mentioned, like three things he said is very critical. One is to laugh every day, laugh your heart out, but do laugh. Um, think think maybe just spend some time in solitude or meditate, but think and then bring out your emotions. They are crying, whether you are laughing, but just be emotional in their approach. So these three things are, he says, it's very important for any person to to practice in our day-to-day life, so as to live a full life. And this is coming from a person who is having like hardly a few more months to live. So he knows how exactly how valuable each second is. So when somebody asks him, like there are only 30 seconds left for him to close the speech, so he mentions like as if he cares about that those 30 seconds. So that was really nice way of putting it across, because when he is in such particular situation and somebody is asking you to just close the discussion, so that was well hitting one. So and he got a very sounding ovation from the crowd. He was in really I think he was going through some treatment, etc. So even in that kind of a situation, the way he actually carried the point across, and the way he motivated the audience to chip in for the foundation that he was giving in, the V Foundation, the Jimmy Valvano Foundation. So he actually drove home the point why we need to spend money on research related to cancer specific diseases. So he's saying that it's not only like for AIDS that we need to do research on, but also for cancer specific activities we need to get some funding and do some research so that the future generation can benefit from that. So all this like coming to the closure part, I would say that Valvano's speech he was a great personality, and he has used this platform to drive home a very important point. And I think it makes an impact to each and every individual who was there in the audience at that point of time, like how he moved them. So yeah, that's from me. Thanks Jay.
Yeah, no, those are excellent points, Litesh. Very well said. Yeah, that was a very well thought out statement there that you made there. Yeah, I think one of the things that uh, uh, when it comes to speech, and this is again something we discussed in the beginning, is the metric, right? And this would be a good example to look at that. He he wanted to make a difference to individuals who may not have just in their daily life, individuals as far as people who are currently suffering from cancer, and also people in the future who may contract cancer and may they not have to suffer if there's enough medicine or treatment available. So when you look at a speech, like, you ask yourself, like, what are you trying to achieve? And I thought he was achieving a lot in this speech. The metric in here was like just out of the park here on what he was trying to accomplish in that 10-minute speech that he gave. And that's what I took away, that there was so much in that speech that he was trying to achieve, and I think he did it. And he did it because he was the message. There's a famous book that I always like to keep in my table, this one right here, You Are the Message. And he is the message. He is the person. Only he could have delivered that speech. There's no other person who could have delivered that speech at that time. And since then, it has a lot of impact on people. As you know, that's one of the reasons why I wanted to use it. That a speech is something that lives on forever, and you can't mess up a speech because nowadays you're on video, and everything you said is going to be, and you can inspire people at any point in life. And I thought that this was a good example of that. Any closing thoughts, Litesh, before we close out this show?
Yeah, one thing I forgot to mention is he also mentioned this statement come next year and I will come again for giving an award to recipients. So that's a very positive statement coming from a person who is in a very in the last stages of this treatment, etc. So that is he's telling that he's living what he said, never ever give up. So he lives that, and he's proving it through that particular statement. So I think very, very well made and very well delivered, very impactful speech.
Okay, great. All right, so we'll close out segment 3, and at this point, just any closing thoughts that let's just take a quick second, and then we'll get to the closing thoughts, and we'll be done with this. All right, so that completes this show. I think it went well. I don't know. Hopefully next week we can get Julie and Somin. Somin has some technical issues that I hope he can resolve, so we can get more people. The other thing is I reach out to quite a few people on Coursera to come and join us, but they never seem to want to join us. I don't know why. Hopefully one of these days somebody's going to be courageous and said, yeah, let me see. I don't know why. I said, look, we're not like that scary, maybe a little scary, but not that scary. But so far, I haven't been able to get, I said, I may be scary. Litesh is definitely not scary. So I don't know what's going on there. These are people who sound like they're really excited about public speaking. And I said, hey, if you want to join us, come join us, participate. It's not that difficult, but it's just people don't have time, or they just don't want to spend the time. So that's so if somebody wants to get in touch with you, Litesh, what's the best way? I usually, if you notice it now, I've started using annotation. So when you introduce yourself, I actually include your email, and you're a project manager, I include that, and then I include email. So people, if they want to get in touch with you on anything about public speaking or anything, they now have a way to get in touch with you.
Exactly. Yeah. I think that's a great idea, and I think anybody who's watching this episode, please come join us. This talk is not only for improving each other, but also to to take away some kind of some kind of what do you say, it's something that will come. It will grow on you. It will grow on you as in when you start attending this session one after the other. You will see some changes happening to yourself. So join us. It's a great platform that Jay has been giving this particular talk show for I think the last 8-10 episodes. So And for me, you can connect me anytime. As Jay mentioned, that it comes as an annotation, so you can reach out to me. Otherwise, my LinkedIn or Facebook IDs are always there. Latesh Balakrishna. Do join, do come here, attend the show, and let's have fun.
Yeah, no, thanks a lot, Latesh. Yeah, one thing I will say, and I think something you just said, and I want to just add to that, is that part of public speaking is, and I'm actually currently writing a book on this topic, and I don't. One of the things that I think what happens is that I like to remove the word public speaking. There are only three kinds of speaking actually: good speaking, bad speaking, and no speaking. So when people think of public speaking, they think that they're going to get in front of an audience and give a speech. And let me be honest with you, I don't get that many opportunities to get in front of an audience and give a speech. So the question then you have to ask yourself is how are you going to improve? If you're going to wait for that opportunity, then it's going to be a long while before you get that. That's a rare event, okay, unless you happen to be a person that people are seeking out to come and give a speech. But that doesn't mean you can't improve. And what this show does is it helps you improve your speaking, period. And a lot of times it's impromptu. There's not much you can prepare for. A lot of the things we're saying is sort of extemporaneous. Like there are no notes here. I have some notes here on what I want to say, but most of it is kind of on the fly, and you have to really think about how you're coming across, because you're not going to have a speech in front of you that you can give, and that's not even going to look that natural. So if you're not getting an opportunity to practice it with people like us, and that's what we use this for, as a way of practicing, then it's not likely that you're going to be able to pull it off when you're speaking in a real situation, high stakes situation, where it really is going to count. So definitely we encourage you to join us and contribute to the show. We're always looking for new ideas, and let us know how we can make it better. So at this point, I'm going to close it out, Latesh, unless you have any last thoughts, or we're all done then.
We are good. We are good.
All right, Latesh, thanks a lot for joining, and thanks for all those who are watching this. We appreciate you taking time and watching. Just give us some feedback so we can improve. Okay, thank you, and we're done.
Thank you, Jay. Bye. Nice weekend. Bye.